Greetings, communicative citizens, and welcome to another edition of Flashpoint, a weekly television show of issues and ideas. Flashpoint is brought to you by the Lawrence Debate Union, an endowed co-curricular program at the University of Vermont, which trains UVM students in the arts and skills of debating and has them debate competitively and educationally with sentient beings from all kinds of places. One of the other things the Lawrence Debate Union does to promote discussion, discourse, and debate, these are all words that start with the letter D, in our community is to bring you Flashpoint each week. My name's Alfred C. Snider. I'm the Edwin W. Lawrence Professor of Forensics at the University of Vermont, and I'll be your rhetorical spirit guide for this week's version of Flashpoint. Let's welcome our panelists in this week's edition. On my right, I have Nikki Muradian, who's from Boston. And did you ever play a sport?
Yes, I played many sports.
And what was your favorite?
Softball and field hockey are my favorites.
Okay.
But I play all sports.
All right, well, I predict
love all
soon
sports.
debate will be your most successful sport.
I hope so.
Okay.
Competition.
On my immediate right, I have Charles Hoag, who's a senior at the University of Vermont, speaks semi-fluent German.
I think conversationally it's pretty fluent, but like many foreign languages, once you get to technical languages.
And Charles, you're leading the way to try to organize a public debate the Lawrence Debate Union is going to have about military action, should there be any, against Afghanistan.
Absolutely. October 16th, Tuesday, it's going to be in Marsh Life Sciences 235, and it's going to begin at 7 p.m.,
7
and everyone is invited.
Okay. Excellent. And thank you for organizing that.
No problem.
On my left, I have Steph McDonald, a student at the University of Vermont, and who's an electronic debate coach to people all over the world. Now, on the website, it says if you need advice or help specifically to teachers, it has them email you. Can you describe your work a little bit?
Yes, I work with students and debate coaches around the world. I consult with them to help them develop their debate skills and develop sustainable debate programs.
Okay, and that's at our debate website, which
It's on our debate website, debate.uvm.edu, and we seem to have a great deal of needy teachers.
Yeah.
I've worked with students and teachers around the country, from Europe, from South Asia, and it's been a real gratifying experience.
Good, excellent. Well, this week's show is show number 243. We're persistent if nothing else. New world since 9/11. We have a hard time even figuring out what kind of name to give this event or this concept. I'm sure just the use of a date, September 11th, is insufficient. But I don't think that what's really happened has sunk in enough for us even to have the kind of symbolic units that we can apply with any comfort. So I hope the audience will bear with us in giving it this type of name. Nevertheless, it seems to us, in preparing for this show, that many things have changed. Things that relate to our personal lives, our family lives, our interior lives, how we feel about our communities. Nationally, certainly things have changed. Internationally, things have changed. And it's not just that, because I think things are changing all the time. But it's a real radical shakeup in the global snow globe. And so many things seem to have changed. Old enemies are now friends, old friends are now enemies, and there seems to be a whole new global dynamic. What we're going to try to do is to go through different levels of analysis to look at how things have changed from our point of view, and we hope that you'll find this interesting on this week's edition of Flashpoint. Let's start with the interior of this. And it's hard for any of us to know what's really going on inside of other people, but we certainly can think about what it did to us individually. What's your impression of how it affected you and you think the insides of others around you?
It's a real wake-up call because now everybody is very concerned with the current issues and what's going on. Everyone is now more willing to accept the idea that we could possibly under attack at any time now. Everybody's concerned about biological, chemical warfare, and more terrorist attacks. Everybody's more open to those ideas and we've kind of lost the invincible attitude that we all thought we had prior to 9/11.
I know that personally, I think that I've been, immediately after what happened, I was profoundly disturbed, both by the thought that, this kind of thing, not that I had the illusion that it couldn't happen here, but certainly, it always, for me, is more poignant if it involves people that I know, or like I have relatives in New York, and I know that their lives have been profoundly changed by it. So that definitely had more of a personal, kind of felt more real to me in a lot of different ways. I'm also kind of profoundly disturbed by, what's going on just around me in my community. I think a lot of people are discussing things like war and military operations, and just in the personal discussions, it's always been kind of a flashpoint between people to kind of express their views. And I know within myself that I have a lot of misgiving about the future, not necessarily because of like if I'm concerned about flying or things having strictly to do with terrorism, but rather kind of the course that we're headed. But it definitely has given me a lot to reflect on, and it's certainly something that's first and foremost in my mind almost every day.
I think for me, I felt many of the same things, but one thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure others shared it, was just a profound hurt at the notion that people would do that. I think that just 2 days ago, I was following the story of a suicide attack in an Israeli settlement on the West Bank near Hebron, where somebody was their mission to sneak in and kill some people that night. And so he cut his way through the barbed wire, he crawled in, and he found a couple, both 20, they were just about to be married, admiring the sunset, and he machine gunned them down. And that, always hurts me, because like I'm a human being, and when human beings do something like that, it really hurts me. But when someone does something like that that kills thousands of people at the same time, it's so much worse. So I was in some ways ashamed of the human race that people could do this. And that really bothered me, because I try to be very positive about human beings, and we can overcome, and we'll do good, and all that. But it's tough in the face of that. What happened to people around you? How did they act? People that you know, your family, your friends?
I think immediately what I noticed, it was September 11th. Started off as your normal, typical American business day. And you leave for class, or you're listening to the radio in your office, and all of a sudden the nation seems to have shut down, and we're all focused, listening to our radios, listening to our televisions. And for me, immediately, it was all about contacting people I knew in New York, family and friends that I know that work in the World Trade Center and the financial district, and making sure that they're all right. And a lot of people, a lot of people couldn't do that, especially in the New York area. What's even more frustrating is that this has happened, and then trying to get in contact with these people that you can't get in contact with for one reason or another, such as circuit boards are jamming and that sort of thing. And a friend of mine who walked into the debate office actually is absolutely hysterical and crying, because she's tried for hours to get in contact with her family, and she couldn't do that because she lives in the Bronx and her mother works in the area. And I think how it's affected people around us is we're finally aware of the gravity of terror and what it does to people and how it affects. Because what the experiences in New York and in this nation after 9/11 are really no different than the experiences in, say, Jerusalem or Belfast, in the effect of how they affect the environment and the society. The entire city's shut down, not necessarily over bombings, certainly, even threats of terror, threats of protests, gunshots. The entire city's shut down, and we're all focused on this event and healing from this event. And I think since certainly now, I think we're more involved with the healing aspects. what do we do to recover from this? And people seem to have different attitudes and different ideas as to how to go about doing this. For some, it's rather defending themselves, and army surplus stores are selling out of gas masks
sales,
at a
yeah.
huge rate to prevent themselves from biological terror. Or people are a little bit more reluctant to fly unless they really have to, and whether or not some of their precautions are warranted or unwarranted or a little exaggerated. People have this intense fear, I think, now since 9/11.
Well, I think that I appreciated people who turned out to be safe. Was one thing that happened to me. I found out that people I knew in New York, who live actually in Lower Manhattan, were fine and safe, and I really appreciated them. And of course, part of that is a thought experiment that what if they had been killed in this event? How would I feel? And it automatically made me sort of appreciate them more, and promise myself to tell them that and make sure that they know that at some future time. People didn't seem to want to travel very much. I had to face the choice of next week. I have a trip to Europe and to the UK, and so I had to face the choice of am I going? And I said, well, yeah, I guess so, because I'm trying to, spread the use of words as a substitute for weapons. So, I might as well continue with my work. But a lot of people I know were going to come up for homecoming and decided not to come. Some parents decided not to come to Parents' Weekend because some people just don't want to travel on the highways or anywhere. Last weekend we were at the United States Military Academy at West Point, and entering the base every time they had to search the whole van. And everybody had to get out, and they looked through your files, and at one point they were looking through the University of Rochester's debate files and found this thing that says, "Join the revolution." And they were very concerned, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I'm not saying that they're trying to be censors or anything, but just that it creates a climate that I'm concerned about. And the flags. Flags are everywhere. Your reaction?
I'm so sick of seeing the American flag. I understand that people wish to demonstrate their patriotism, and it's a symbol for unity, and I think it's important to, as a country, as people, to unite with one another and realize that we're human beings, that we're connected profoundly in many different ways. But
Well, those are some heavy things to have in front of your butt, so go ahead. But
but the problem is, everywhere I go, I see flags on cars, on buildings. When we traveled, I remember traveling to West Point, I saw on the highway, many highway signs would say, "God bless America." And I'm just curious what it all means, because I'm disturbed because I feel like I'm not able to connect. And I feel like I'm an American, right? And I definitely feel for people, and I trying to just understand this tragedy and its profound effects on others. But it kind of scares me in a way, because I feel like I'm being left out of something, and maybe I feel almost as if I need to put up a flag in order to defend myself, and maybe people think I'm less patriotic or not even patriotic because I don't wish to display a flag prominently.
or now that you've said this on television.
Yeah, many people may be thinking now, wow, what kind of, anti-patriot is this guy?
Well, just to add to that, I was speaking with my father today. We're from Boston, and he was meeting up here in Burlington, Vermont, with other business partners from Pennsylvania and people who live in Vermont. And the people from Pennsylvania and himself were saying, wow, I can't believe how few flags there are up here. And the guy from Vermont was like, no, are you crazy? They're all over the place. But apparently at home,
Even
in
more.
other states, my father said it's hard to find a car at home that doesn't have a flag on it. Here, it's hard to find a car that does have a flag on it. There is a lot more flags outside of Vermont, is from what I've been hearing.
I feel uncomfortable with that, and I'll tell you why. Because I think this is a very complex situation. It's going to be very difficult to figure out, what to do, let alone what to do easily and effectively. And to me, just the projection of flag as symbol represents a simplified response, right? Patriotism is the answer. Well, I'm not sure what the answer is. It's very complex, and if it was only patriotism, that would be great, but I'm not sure. And patriotism may be a component of it, right? But it's not you know, the be-all, answer-all. The flag is not the answer. And I think it's an easy way for people to make a statement without having to think hard. But I believe we all need to think hard about this instead of having an automatic sort of nationalistic response. Nationally, I guess air travel is going to become more challenging. It will probably never be the same, although I heard that flight attendants are complaining that security is not as enhanced as people think it is, or as it should be.
Just recently found, only through the second security check, someone was found with a disassembled shotgun in their bag. And they already passed through the security system once, and they had to be caught the second time. So that was after the attack. So.
I was skeptical as soon as I heard claims about increased security, because the kind of radical changes that they want to institute in security, at least in the airline industry, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of training, and it takes time for people to get used to those kind of systems. So I was very skeptical, and I think it's going to take a lot of time if we want to see the kind of security that people seem to want.
If it's going to take extra time, it's going to cripple the regional air travel industry too. Because if you add a half hour or 45 minutes at each end of your trip, it almost makes sense to get from Boston to New York in a different way, or to get from New York to Washington in a different way. So, you know, it's going to be inconvenient and it's going to be economically damaging in order to be safe. But then who wants to travel and be unsafe? That's the point. George Bush went to the Chicago's O'Hare Airport and said, yeah, everybody fly again. And he went to Washington National Airport and said, yeah, everybody fly again. And he also said, get out there and spend, buy things, in his attempt to pep us up. Think he's being successful? How's he doing?
He's got a good rating. He's got a good approval rating right
Yeah.
now.
I think no amount of George Bush's exhortations for people to spend money or to feel safe is going to change the fact that people feel